tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. So we'll begin with a meditation. And as usual, when I come to a place where there are lots of people who may not have meditated before, or may have meditated for a long time and has a lot of ideas about how meditation should be, I'd like you to think in this way. Don't try to meditate. Just make yourself comfortable and don't try to meditate. Rather, I would like you to just be yourself. Not yourself as in some fixed thing, but just to be as you are right now. And allow the body to relax naturally. Don't try to relax as if it's a job. Rather, just let the body do its job of relaxing, as you're not trying to do anything. Without trying to do anything, already awareness is there. Just notice that, just recognize that. We don't have to be trying to change what is happening. What is happening is already happening, and we're just noticing it. Notice that when we are not trying to do anything, the body relaxes on its own. The body only tenses up if you are trying to do something. We're not trying to make anything happen. We are just recognizing what is happening. We're not trying to make anything stop happening. We're just wanting to know what is already happening. beware is actually quite simple. All we need to do is just to recognize what is happening. And the more relaxed the body is, the easier it is. If you're trying to make something happen, that's a kind of greed. If you don't like what is happening, trying to stop it, that's aversion. When you don't know what's happening, that's delusion. By that I don't mean we shouldn't have these things happening. But we need to be recognizing if they are. Is the body relaxed? We're not forcing the body to relax, just checking. Don't take this so seriously. It's important to not take things seriously. Because when you take it seriously, you cannot relax. So as I say, just be yourself. Imagine you're sitting in the park. Having nothing to do. Not interested in what's around. Just happy being the way you are. Nothing to achieve. If you notice some tension in the body, just recognize that. Just know that it's okay. Let it be. If you're aware of it, that's good enough. You may notice that if I'm not reminding you or not saying anything, the mind may drift off. As soon as I say something, and you're brought back. It's because of reminding, which you can do for yourself. Remind yourself. Remind yourself gently, kindly. Be encouraging. You might even say, be warm. Be warm to yourself. You can ask yourself the question, what's the mind doing now? Is it paying attention? In a relaxed way? Or you could ask a very simple question, is the body relaxed? By the way, you don't have to do this with your eyes closed. You can allow the eyes to be open naturally and still be aware. Or you could try. How is it like with the eyes open? Are you more aware with the eyes open or closed? You can find out for yourself. We are not trying to get rid of thinking. If there's thinking, we just know. If there's no thinking, we just know too. You're just being aware. We're also not trying to concentrate. If you try to concentrate, you'll tense up. Okay, I'll give a talk now. And I would like you to continue to be aware if you could. And it doesn't take a lot of effort, it just takes remembering. That's all. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm still trying to be aware. This could be as simple as just noticing how the body feels, or it could be knowing that you're looking. Could be noticing how you're feeling right now. Anything about your body and mind. Of course, over here it's easier for us to practice awareness because we are being reminded. We're also in a setting where you see other people trying. In other words, you are being reminded. You are reminded by sight and also by sound, as in you're hearing what I'm saying. So over here it's not too difficult. But you could forget over here as well as you get too involved with what I'm saying, get lost with the content of what I'm saying. It's not necessary to get so involved. You can be noticing that you're hearing right now and still understand what I'm saying, right? You can still be noticing that you're looking right now and still understand what I'm saying. You can still be feeling the body right now and still understand what I'm saying. But perhaps not all of them at one go. To be aware of our being quite in an entire way requires a fairly expanded awareness. And you don't have to be there yet. You don't have to be there. It's something that grows naturally. As we practice awareness grows naturally. It's not something fixed. It's something like riding a bicycle. Perhaps in the beginning it requires a bit more energy to pedal. But once you get that momentum going on, it doesn't take a lot of effort. But if you just keep doing it, you find that you get better and better at it. While you're riding the bicycle, you don't have to be completely focused on riding the bicycle. You can be conscious of other things. And also, it's not difficult to pick up speed once you get the initial inertia. You get over that inertia. So right now, is you aware? Not sure? I like everybody to relax, just take it easy. You can really, really relax, and meditation doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be something that looks very formal. Whenever people, you've been to formal occasions, right? So in your experiences of being to formal occasions, are you relaxed? Generally not, huh? Because it's formal. So don't be formal. Relax. Really, imagine you were just sitting in the park and just listening to somebody telling stories. So you can be relaxed that way. And it's okay if in between you lose your awareness and then remember. It's okay, it's alright. Awareness is not something that you can keep and hold as if it belongs to you. It doesn't. Sometimes you lose it and then miraculously you got it back. Oh, I'm back. I'm back online. I was offline just now. So then just continue from there. Like I said just now, be encouraging, be kind to yourself. Don't go criticizing yourself, which what I did in the past. When I started meditation, try to cultivate awareness during my daily life. I was really, really lousy at it. And I lose awareness, I could lose it for hours, like 4 or 5 hours, and then, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to cultivate awareness. And then I would criticize myself, saying, oh, you're so bad at this, why can't you do it right? And what I found from that experience is that it's not useful. When we criticize ourselves, when we or scold ourselves for forgetting, that's anger, that's aversion. And when there is defilement in the mind is actually less stable, less composed. So in other words, there's less samadhi. And when there's less samadhi, it's even easier for us to forget. So I later learned not to do that, and that was really, really much later, far into my monkhood. Stop criticizing myself for losing awareness. So when that happened, when I stopped, I found it quite easy. As I came back to awareness, it was just a natural thing to just continue. There was no, almost like you feel like there's no disturbance to the mind. It's okay. Oh, now I'm back, and all right, let's just start again. Start again and start again. If I lose it, I start again, lose it and start again. And I found that worked better because I'm not disturbing the mind. And furthermore, because I was encouraging, then the mind wanted to do more of it. Our mind it likes peaceful things. It likes being encouraged. It likes being happy. It doesn't like being unhappy. I'm sure you've noticed. But see, when we do this thing of criticizing ourselves when we do something wrong, such as losing awareness, which isn't something very wrong, right? But if you label it as something wrong, then what happens is that, in reality, every time you remember to be aware, you get scolded, you get criticized. And when you're not aware, you don't get criticized. So what does the mind learn? It learns that becoming aware is something unhappy. So if the mind gets that something is unhappy, it doesn't want to do so much of it. It rather just be in its ignorant bliss. So if you want to encourage your mind to be more aware, then be encouraging. Don't be criticizing. In fact, you could apply this to anything in your life. If you want to do anything well, don't be critical. Be encouraging. Perhaps in your lives you have met some teachers, or it could be your parents. If you want to learn something from them and they're always criticizing, do you actually learn? Do you actually get better? Or maybe perhaps you have met some who are very encouraging. If you do something wrong, okay, fine, let's try again. And perhaps not in that tone. Sometimes encouragement could be firmer, but still it's encouraging. Imagine if you just keep criticizing. People are just being constantly criticized whenever you fail. You feel very, very disappointed at yourself. You feel basically unhappy. I recently read a book. I don't know how many of you have read this book. Well, I've not finished it yet. The title is called Grit, written by a Chinese-American named of Angela Ducksworth. Well, Ducksworth is not her original name, that's her husband's name. And I found something very interesting in that book. It's about training soldiers in America. And they have this particular training that's very, very demanding, extremely demanding. And you've probably seen scenes in the TV, in movies, where you have this very kind of almost brutal kind of training, where, I mean, even verbally, there's a lot of verbal abuse. The sergeant will be abusing the trainee, you're nothing but shit and blah, 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 all these things. That used to be happening in the past. Apparently they have changed. They have changed to drop all those critical way of so-called motivating people and change it into something more encouraging. Not that they drop their standards. In fact, instead, standards were raised. And at the same time, the dropout rates dropped. More of them stayed on, because in the past, dropout rates could be really, really big, because it's very difficult to go through the whole thing. So from that, it seems being encouraging is more helpful. It's clear data, clear statistics. But in our society, especially in Chinese society these days, I think we still face a lot of criticism. We still live in a culture where there's this idea that you need to be scolded to buck up. You need to be scolded to do better. If nobody else is scolding you, you do it yourself. Have you noticed that? Yeah, have you noticed yourself? This thing, you would just be critical, scold yourself. Why after so many times you can't do this? Sometimes Buddhists, they would do something like, okay, they may be meditating and then there's a lot of negative thoughts coming in their mind, so it'd be lustful thoughts or whatever, and then when they see that, they start criticizing themselves. How many times you've been to so many meditation retreats, listened to so many Dhamma talks, and read so many Dhamma books? Why can't you still get it? And that is a way to make your mind less stable and more unhappy. So we need to recognize it. What's the effect of what we say to ourselves? We can't stop others from criticizing us, yeah. But what are we doing to ourselves? We don't like others to criticize us, but why do we do it to ourselves? If you do, what is this thing there? It's that somehow feels that it's the right thing to do. If you want to encourage yourself, then be encouraging. But then again, we can't just change a habit because we want to. Habits are called habits because they don't change so easily. But habits can be changed. And one key factor in changing habits is awareness. We need to be knowing what we say to ourselves. Do you talk to yourself? Anybody who don't talk to yourself? Hands up. Think about it. Do you talk to yourself? Is anybody here who's thinking, do I talk to myself? We do talk to ourselves a lot, all day long. But some people are not very conscious about this. They think only when they meditate they talk to themselves a lot. But it's true that they notice that more when they meditate. Yeah, so it feels like there's a lot. So since we do talk to ourselves a lot, it matters whether or not we are talking to ourselves in an encouraging or not encouraging way, if we want to do well in certain things. If we don't check, if we are not conscious of our own tone towards ourselves, then we can do a lot of damage to ourselves. We can do a lot. As the Buddha would say, there's nobody who could do more harm to ourselves than we ourselves. Nobody else can do more harm. And this is one of the ways. Being critical is one of the ways. The other ways like doing things that we know are wrong, that we would feel bad about. That's another way we harm ourselves. So now how do we stop? How do we stop this critical mind? Because this is the important thing here. Just to say that, stop criticizing yourself, I don't think that's helpful. Then when you criticize yourself, then you start to criticize yourself for criticizing yourself. So the question here is how to do it. Again, awareness. You need to know that it's there. And when it's there, just recognize it. Recognize that it's not you doing it. Do you notice that there's a lot of thoughts in our heads that you have no control over? Just nyek, 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 nyek. Sometimes you want to sleep and it's still going on. Because it's a matter of energy. When there is a lot of energy going in one direction, it tends to continue. And when there is some kind of energy, or you call it a habit, that when it's triggered by something, it goes. There's no way of stopping it. But we can be aware of it and feel it. We need to feel this energy, this critical energy. Feel it. Knowing it is one level, that could be superficial. But to feel it, that's when we can see the harm that it causes immediately, indirectly. You can see that it's doing harm to you. Then it's that you're knowing it directly, for itself. It's not some theory. It's not what I say. It's not what anybody say. But you know it for yourself. Yes, it's true. And it's only when the mind really gets it, it really knows that it's true, that this is what's happening. And this is what the effect is, that it's willing to gradually give it up. No amount of theory is going to do that. It takes direct knowing. It takes direct experiencing. Theories are good. They are necessary. Right now, you're listening to theories. You don't really know if this works yet. It's only when you put it into practice and see, wow, it's true. And you can see, you can feel the effect of it. Generally, we don't want to cause any harm to ourselves. Generally. But we do because we don't really see it yet. So what it takes is to see it. Not just once, but again and again and again. And it's not how many times actually, the matter is not how many times, but the impact of what you see. And the impact depends on how clear your mind is. The clearer your mind is, the clearer you notice the impact. If your mind is numb, you don't notice much. So get to know what your mind says. Is it critical? Or it could be something else. It could be, your mind could say a lot of things that scares you. We scare ourselves a lot. Nobody else can scare us as much as we do. Just as we criticize ourselves a lot, not as much as anybody else can. So therefore it's true, if you really watch your mind, that you do the most harm to yourself, more than anybody else can. Not your parents, not your friends, not your boss, even though sometimes that seems to be true. Consider this, yeah? Say somebody criticizes you, and you feel hurt. After that, do you repeat that in your head? Do you play it again? And again? And again? Maybe 1 hour later, you're still recalling that. And you feel, of course, you don't feel good about it. If you really calculate, yeah? Now that person said it once, right? If you really calculate the number of times that you say, how many times would that be in your head? Can you make a guess? Can you estimate? How many do you think it could go? How many times? 100 times? Could be more. Yeah. Well, probably it tapers down after some time, but the beginning there may be more, and then it drops. When a husband argues with a wife, could stay there for a long, long time. And I think the closer you are with that person, the longer it stays. And we can see from this example who is more merciful, who is more cruel. Well, the person said once. Just once. So there are many other things that you could notice if you watch your mind. There could be many other things. Just like just now I mentioned about fearful things. Sometimes we scare ourselves. Some people are scared of a lot of things. And when they are scared of certain things, they repeat in their head, "Oh, this is scary. No, I'm not going there." Or they will say things like, "I'm going to fail. I'm not going to. That's not. No, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to make it." Or sometimes we scare ourselves over other things. How others would dislike us, or would not want to be with us. We scare ourselves with those. So when we are not watching our minds, we can do a whole lot of harm. And whatever fears that we have, whatever obsessions that we have, whatever aversions that we have, when we repeat those thoughts, it gets stronger and stronger. As one sutta says, whatever thoughts that we repeat frequently, and the mind is inclined to that. It's very easy for that to come up because it's inclined there. You keep repeating certain things in your head, for sure, your mind will be inclined to think about it more and more. So it's always so important for us to check our minds. So important. When we don't, we can drag ourselves to hell. That's what happens with people with depression. They drag themselves to hell by repeating certain things over and over and over. In Western psychology, they call it ruminating. But that's not the only way. There's also the other way of trying to suppress the thoughts, trying to stop it from thinking. This is not the same as letting go. Some people think that I need to let go of this, try to cut it off. It's not the same. And because there's these two conflicting energies in the mind, one wants to think and the other one is trying to stop that thinking, it increases pressure, increases a lot of negative energy inside, and again, that could lead to depression as well. So when we don't know our minds, we don't know what it's doing, and if you don't know what it's doing, we can't be knowing the effect of what it's doing, we can create a lot of harm. On the other hand, if we are able to watch our minds and see what it's doing, getting to know the effects of what it's doing, then it could drop all those unnecessary things that we say to ourselves. It could be a lot for you, it could be very little. It keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. And in place of that, something that's more useful, more loving, more peaceful. Imagine how your lives could be. Just imagine that. We all want to be happy, right? So, how are we getting there? We can't get there by not watching, because we don't know what we are doing. We don't know what harm we are doing to ourselves. So it's impossible to get there without watching. Being aware, it could seem like so simple. So simple. Once I was teaching, just giving guided meditation to some people who are new, or at least new to how I was teaching. In the end, somebody said, "Like that only, ah? So simple, meh?" Yeah. What do you want? Yeah. Would you like something more difficult? Sometimes people like more difficult things. They feel like if I do something more difficult then, or more complicated, then it's better. Sometimes you even think, so what kind of posture should I sit in? Should I do full lotus? Should I do this and that? There was once this monk, Chinese monk, Chinese as in from China, Chinese monk who asked my teacher. I mean, he asked this question after a long time being with my teacher, and usually by then he should already get a hang, but he was a bit slow. Well, not just a bit. And once he, after like maybe half a year with my teacher, and that's a far longer time than I have ever been with my teacher in a longer period. After half a year with my teacher, he asked this question: what's the best posture for meditation? And my teacher, I could see his face, was so disappointed. After so long, you're asking me that question, you know. My teacher is never interested in postures, you know. So he looked at me and he said, headstand. And of course, everybody in that place knew that it was a joke. But this monk went, oh. I was surprised. You don't have to do anything difficult. Being aware is not something difficult. It's not something that takes a lot of effort. And I mean, strenuous effort. No. But why is it difficult for us to meditate in our daily lives? You know, being aware is not difficult, right? Just now you did it. Was it strenuous? Did you sweat? In fact, totally relaxed, right? But that, I don't know, did you lose awareness just now? Did you? Yeah? So why is it that we lose? Why is it so difficult? There's only one reason why it's difficult, because we are not in the habit of it. We are not in the habit of remembering to do this. And this remembering is what the Buddha called sati. Often sati is translated as mindfulness, but literally it means remembering. Remembering to be aware, remembering to relax, remembering to have the right mindset, as in right attitude towards the practice, not trying to get this or get that, but just let things be. So there's this remembering right view. Things are just as they are. They're just as they are. Seeing is just seeing. Feeling is just feeling. Thinking is just thinking. Things are just as they are. So it's that remembering that's difficult. Even people who have meditated for a long, long time, they might be sometimes thinking they're meditating, but they forget these basics of having the right attitude, right view. Because it's not a habit. That's it. Habits are difficult to cultivate, difficult to change, but yet it can change. So while we are not in the habit of it yet, it is difficult to sustain this awareness due to this lack of practice, lack of habit. It is. It might take you a long, long time before you get a hang of how to practice throughout the day. It is possible to maintain awareness throughout the day. It's possible, but not for somebody who has just started. But it is possible. And when you get to that point, you wouldn't want to stop. You want to keep it up because you see so much benefit in it. In fact, so much joy, so much happiness. You wouldn't want to give it up. It's not that you cling to it, but you just keep doing. It's just like, if you, I don't know, how many of you have done long distance running? Marathon, half marathon, even 10 km? None? Okay. right? A few. Or cycling, long distance cycling. Okay, not a very exercising group, yeah. Okay, one of the things that happen when you kind of, in the beginning when you do these things, yes, you feel like you need to make an effort. But once you get a hang of it, once you kind of get into the momentum of it, something called endorphin kicks in. And once that kicks in, you feel like you can go on forever. You feel like you could, almost effortless. Just not that you stop. You're not that you stop making effort. You still are, but it doesn't take a lot of effort. It just feels like you could go on and on and on, like the Energizer bunny. That's what one professor, Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, is a Russian professor who what he studies called flow. The flow. When what you want to do, you have the capacity, full capacity to do what you want to do. Things just flow. You don't have to make much effort anymore. And the same can happen for meditation. You can come to that state of flow. And it just flows on and on. Of course, you could lose it. There's only one reason why we lose awareness, why the mind gets destabilized and lose awareness. It's the defilements. Imagine if you are trying to practice awareness, okay, and then you see somebody very attractive walking by and you are so-called attracted, but actually it's just you're interested. What happens to awareness? Might be gone by then. Or maybe, perhaps if your practice is not too bad, it goes on for 2 seconds, oh wait a minute, what am I doing? And comes back. But if your practice is even better, then you notice this image, and finish. But if you're not a practicing person, not much, then it goes on. And even perhaps the eyes doesn't see it, the mind still see it. It still goes on. And it comes up again, and again, and again. Well, that the mind is distracted, that's not something that you can control too. If it is distracted. But are we conscious? Are we aware? If we can be, then it's not too distracted. You can still save it. It's possible to save that. But if you're not conscious, then zoom, it goes. Until somehow you get back. Somehow, when the mind is a little bit calmer. What's so good about practicing awareness in our daily lives? What's so good about it? I don't want to speak of theories here. What's so good about that? How do you think it would benefit your lives? As in your experience. What do you see? In what way your life could be better? Or has been better because of a practice? We need to know this. Because if we know this, then the mind is more encouraged to do it. Is the mind more peaceful? Does it argue with or fight with others less? Are you able to do your work more efficiently? In fact, there is this in the sutras. It's important to have mindfulness to not overeat. I recently listened to a TED Talk talking about people who live for a long, long time. And one of the places in the world where people live to a very old age is in Okinawa, Japan. Okinawa is a cluster of islands at the southern part of Japan, and that's where people tend to live over 100. There's a picture of a group of ladies who are friends, and the average age of this group of ladies is 102. There are many, many people who are what they call centenarians. You know. So one of the things that they credit their long lives is they don't overeat, and so much it is so much in their culture in this not overeating. Yeah. Before they eat, they even repeat something that says something like, "Don't overeat." I don't remember the exact words. Yeah, like I think it's to stop at 80% full. And when we eat until a certain point where we feel like, "Oh, I'm full," and usually that's when we stop, or maybe not. Depends on maybe what's in front, and actually not so important what's in front is what inside is. So, but for them, it's less than that, 20% less than that. They don't overeat, and that's one reason why they live so long. And apparently that's what Mahathir credits his long life as well. Not just long life, but healthy long life. It's not bedridden. No, that's not really life. Yeah. Goes around, talks, sharp mind. Wow. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. Yeah. So, would you like to live long? I mean, healthily? Don't overeat. 80% full. You want to be able to do that? Be mindful. You have to remind yourself, okay, stop at 80% full. And it's easier for them because everybody's doing it. Again, it's this culture. We are reminded. If you are in a place where everybody doesn't care, it's more difficult. It's true. It's true. So choose your friends. So in so many ways that mindfulness, practice cultivating awareness, remembering to be aware, so many ways it's helpful to us, physically and mentally. Now, if you really think about it, it's insane not to practice. It's insane not to at least try to practice. Really. Really think about it. There's so many benefits to it. Why wouldn't we want it for ourselves? Why wouldn't we try to cultivate it for ourselves? And considering how things can happen when we are not aware, such as getting into accidents, not just car accidents, but accidents at home, getting into arguments, getting lost in our thoughts, critical thoughts, negative thoughts, overeating, and so many, many other things. Just considering all these things that are possible because we are not aware, then it becomes apparent to us that that it's insane not to cultivate awareness. There's so much to benefit, nothing to lose. There's one saying in the sutta from the Buddha. He said, "Mindfulness, I declare, is useful everywhere." And it rhymes in English. Mindfulness, I declare, is useful everywhere. And it's true. It's useful everywhere. You can't possibly lose out by practicing mindfulness. There's nowhere. And you might think, oh, I don't have time lah. But is that true? You don't need time. If you're walking to the bus stop and you're aware, how much time do you need to practice? If you're eating and you're aware, how much time do you need to practice? If you're lying down on your bed and you're aware, how much time do you need to practice? You don't need time. Well, maybe not exactly too, because since in those times we tend to forget, we need some time perhaps to just drop everything, and so that we can let the mind settle. We could take that as a chance, an opportunity to remind ourselves, to be aware, to build up the momentum. But is this something that would rob us from the rest of our lives? Does it cause us any loss? To me, it doesn't. In fact, it's time well spent. It's time well spent because it actually makes your whole life better. Just think about it. Just by being aware, we save a lot of time from arguing people, save ourselves a lot of time from doing things in a less efficient way, save ourselves from the time of having to recover from illnesses because of overeating. It saves us a lot. You don't have to spend like hours and hours. I mean, in your daily lives, perhaps you can't afford that. But I think everybody here can afford some. After all, you managed to afford the time to come here. It's a matter of how much we think is important. Naturally, if we don't think something is important, then when we feel like, there's just so many things to do, the mind will just automatically drop off anything that we think are less important. Some people would think, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time, I don't have time to meditate. But my teacher would say, people who understand, they don't say that. If they think, oh no, I'm so busy, I need to meditate. Or people always say, I'm not feeling well, I can't meditate. No, if you understand, I'm not feeling well, I need to meditate. If you understand, you don't see in any situation, or you don't see how you shouldn't be practicing. There's no valid reason. In fact, there are valid reasons to be practicing regardless of your situation. Once I was down with an illness called chikungunya. You have heard of it? Yeah? It's, I don't know, it was only kind of happening at that time, and after that, somehow this is a period of time that people were getting this, and after that it was gone. And chikungunya it's something like if you had chicken pox, it's something similar where your body heats up. Well, you don't have these things on your skin, but the body heats up and you feel really weak. When my father had it, he felt so weak at the time when he was alone at home. He needed to go to the toilet. He crawled to the toilet. It was that difficult. And I got it as well. And I remember I didn't get it as badly as he got it. It seems the older you are, and the harder it is on you. So, but still, it was energy sapping. And it's so energy sapping that you just don't feel like doing anything. You just feel like lying down. But after a while, you don't feel like lying down too. You feel like getting up. But it's like nothing you could do to physically do to make yourself feel better. So once, when I was in that situation, I suddenly recognized that I was getting involved with this pain in the body. getting involved. As soon as I noticed that the mind stepped back from the sensations, it's a step back from being involved or absorbed into this body that's in pain. And when it did that, it was very interesting. That the body was still in pain, but I didn't mind it. I wasn't in pain. The body was in pain, but not me, because I wasn't being the body at that time. So at that moment, it just felt that it's okay. It was completely okay. It's not just half okay, it was completely okay to have the pain because I'm not in pain. The body is still in pain, yes. But since the mind could step back and not identify with it, it was okay. Now, of course, I don't expect a beginner to have such an experience, but it's something possible. It's possible that the body could be in pain and you're okay because you're not identifying with it. You'd like to have that? It's possible. And this can only be happening not because at that time I lost awareness, But at that time because I had the understanding. It's not just about cultivating awareness, but cultivating understanding that this is just nature. Physical sensations are just natural phenomena. So because of the understanding, that clear understanding, that it could step back from it. And you could do the same when you're able to see thoughts as just thoughts, emotional feelings as just that. You could do the same. It steps back and it doesn't mind these things happening because there is this recognition of that being not who you are. And that space, it's peaceful. It's not peaceful as in like nothing's bothering you. The body was still in pain at that time. It's not that kind of peacefulness. But the peacefulness of knowing that this is not who you are and you don't mind things happening. And therefore, there is peace. So it can get that far. Well, of course, I don't think this is very far yet. There's a lot more. Who doesn't want peace at any time at all? Who doesn't wish that they are freed? We can't be freed from physical pain. We can't be freed from worldly problems. We can't. But we can free ourselves from identifying with them. That is possible. When you see that, when you can experience that, then you recognize the power of the Dhamma. And you can have so much gratitude for the teachings that you have received, and also gratitude for the Buddha. It's just amazing. And yet, seemingly, as what that person say, like that only It's really, it doesn't feel like much. Not the right thing to say. It doesn't feel like something bizarre. It doesn't feel like something mystical. It feels quite plain. And yet, not anything that you could imagine, but something that's achievable. Okay, that's all for my talk. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You want to ask something? Okay, there's another mic in front here. Okay, can you pass her that mic? Well, you still need the mic because they can't hear you from here. Yeah. Oh, not working. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about what you shared about energy. Can you be more specific about
Come again?
Energy, like when you immerse yourself. So I'm thinking, can it be in the context that if we go and watch a horror movie and then it stirs up horror images in the mind afterwards, subconsciously, and then you have recollections of that in your dreams. Can that be an example of how the energy of things affect our mind?
Well, for this horror movies, it's about impact. You see, when it hits the mind, actually there's no energy coming from that movie. Yeah, you're just seeing images, right? So the energy has to come from here. How much impact is there as we watch that thing? What's the mind doing? Two person could be watching the same horror movie, and one person doesn't impact him as much as the other person. I remember when I was a little kid, my parents brought me to watch a horror movie. Don't do that to children. Because children don't understand. And they take everything as real. Children have a difficulty telling the difference between what's real and what's not real. Yeah, it takes a whole lot more development of the brain or the mind before they get it. Yeah, even as adults, sometimes you believe in what's not real, right? Yeah. So what to speak of children? So don't do that. But anyway, in that movie, I still remember it. Until now, I still remember. It was an Indonesian movie of not ghosts, but of bomo, it's some kind of witchcraft and all that. So in the beginning of scene was the camera was panning on a branch, and it panned into two eyes on the branch looking around. You laugh, huh? At the time I was scared. And in fact, there were some young Malay men at the back, and they were laughing. And me and my brother, we were so scared. My mother tried to explain to us, oh, it's not real, it's not real. See, they are laughing. I wasn't convinced. And back at home, when we reached home, I was still thinking about that movie. I was still thinking of what is right underneath my bed. So it was really no good to bring kids to watch horror movies. And I couldn't sleep. I was just thinking, what if I sleep and then this witch came up, from underneath my bed. So because it was impossible to sleep imagining that, the only way I decided to stop this fear so that I could sleep was to check it out. Which I did, I told myself, I was like, it's like the attitude was 死就死吧 die啦, I checked it out, it's not there. Then I could sleep. So it is the impact. Yeah, how much do you believe in it? The more we believe in something, the greater the impact. And that is the energy. That is the energy. The mental energy, of course, it would affect the body, and you feel these sensations in the body, and that feeds back to the mind to think even further. Well, this is bad. This is really bad because it feels bad. But actually, that's created by the mind itself. Those Malay guys sitting at the back, they didn't have a problem. They thought it was funny. I didn't. Not my brother did. Yeah. It stuck in our head we were still afraid for some days after that. So don't do that to children, please. So that's the energy. And once, it is constantly being created by the mind. When you believe it, you believe it, and once it's in the body, it takes some time for it to come out, to settle. It really affects the body, the cells, and everything. So that's energy. Yeah.
Does that mean that you can be in a group of very negative people who are saying things with very bad energy, but if you have the right mentality, the right mindset, you may not be affected? So does that mean that whatever energy we take in actually depends on our mindset?
Well, over here I would say that this is different from the horror movie. When we think something, it actually generates energy. So much so that it actually generates sound. There is a kind of mind reader that's mentioned in Sutta that he knows the diffusion of sound of the thinking. When you think, there is a diffusion of sound. And that can be recorded by, can be detected by some kind of mind reader, certain kind, one kind. It sort of hears it. So it does generate that kind of energy, which some people could pick up. But even for those of us who can't pick up, there is a kind of energy that is generated if whatever we think. I don't know if you've been to some people who just generates a strong positive energy. Maybe you're more familiar. People generate strong negative energy. Yeah. But I've met people who generate strong positive energy. Being very sensitive myself, I could feel that. Yeah. But unfortunately, I meet more people with strong negative energy. Yeah. And when I do, I sense it. I sense it. I could feel it. Even if you don't sense it, I think it does affect you to some extent, but you're not so conscious of it. But for me, because of that sensitivity, I need to remember, hey, that's not my energy. And it happens depending on the energy. I feel it in different places. There was once I was in a car, someone was driving me to some place, and because I'm sensitive to energies, not just electromagnetic energy, but human energy as well, so I was feeling uncomfortable, I was feeling some tension in the face, and I thought, is there some wireless thing going on? So I checked my meter, and asked people and say, no, everything's off. Okay. So what's that? Then I remembered, wait a minute, it's focused on my face. Okay, I know that energy. So I kind of check around and say, see, who's the one? And I kind of sensed that it was the driver. So I asked him, are you angry about something? And he went, well, maybe, because he knows about my sensitivity, maybe there's kind of a residue of what happened before I came to pick you up. Because he argued with his girlfriend on the phone. And this guy is a real dosa charita, he's what you call a anger temperament, person of anger temperament. So when he gets angry, he gets really angry. So because I was feeling that, I didn't want to feel that, so I brought it up to him. So let him talk about it, and as he talked about it, he drops that off, and I felt so much more comfortable. In fact, I told him later on, actually, I brought it up just so that I could feel more comfortable. Well, that's not completely true, it's partly true. So there is that kind of energy. There is. For me, I know I can't deny that. But even then, how much I react to that, that's my energy. How much I react to that. I notice that if I react to that, I'm creating more negative energy. So, but then there is the other part, is where you hear these things and some kind of defilements occur. You dislike what you hear. or I get lost into what I believe in what they're saying. And that generates more energy. So now whatever energy that they are radiating, that you can't control. But what are you doing within yourself that you can do something about it through practice? You notice what's the mind doing. Do you notice some kind of aversion, some kind of reaction within you? That's creating energy too. In fact, I noticed that the aversion that I have inside, that can be very strong too. So if I don't watch this, then I'm hurting myself. Well, if I get lost into their stories, of course, I hurt myself even more. I remember once I was meditating in Burma, and I was doing fine. I was meditating, doing fine, and there was suddenly somebody whom I met there came and told me that something happened to a yogi, a nun, and when I heard her story, she was saying that this nun, she was starting to scream and hit her fist against the wall, and she was bleeding, and not kena raso, not possession, yeah. Just to assure you, so that she got very angry over something. When I heard that story, I noticed that my mind got sucked in. As in, I believed that story, because over there when she was telling me the person is not here, nothing's there except what this person is telling me. It's just a story. There's nothing else but a story. And stories don't hurt us. But if we believe a story, that could. So I noticed that the mind believed that story, and it's as if I actually stepped on something hot barefoot. Immediately the leg pulled back. It was like that. The mind knew to pull back. So it was over within maybe half a second or 1 second. So at that moment when it believed that story, it felt hot. There's a kind of heat. It's not like the heat that we feel, but it's a kind of heat. And when the mind pulled back, it's cool again. So now imagine if I were to stay there, then whatever I felt, that's completely mine. In fact, I didn't feel much of hers at that time. It wasn't a lot. But when the mind went in and got absorbed, just for that short while, believed it, and pulled back for that bit of time, I noticed that a lot. It was very clear. It touched it and pulled back immediately. I reported this to my teacher. It's like, touch is like, you touch on something hot and immediately pull back. My teacher smiled. He almost laughed. I suppose he knew what I was talking about. He had that experience before. So there are these two parts. Yeah. Because that physical energy, if there's nothing you can do, maybe you for some people, you can't talk to them about it. Maybe you need to stay away. You need to distance yourself if you're a sensitive person. Because it has an impact. When I conduct meditation retreats, I have to feel this. Because a lot of people come with this heavy body, heavy energy. So I do have to drink lots and lots of water when I have my meditation retreats. It's an occupational hazard. Well, I'm willing to put up with it simply because these people are trying to free themselves. They're trying to do something positive for themselves, and I'm happy to help them. So, the best I could do is to put a bit of distance, and also to notice myself, am I reacting and all, and drink lots of water to clear myself of the energy. So, but in your situation, sometimes you might need to be close to some people, and as much as possible, not stay too long with them. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Anybody else?
Anyone want to raise some questions? Yes, please go ahead.
Needn't be on the topic that we talked about just now. Could be on something else, but be good if you could ask something on that. Or you could ask about your practice, your own practice. Or if there's anything you disagree with what I said just now, you can also bring it up. I'm happy to hear it. At the back, at the back.
Bhante, can I ask, can we do something without desire?
Like lifting up a hand,
Huh?
like talking. Like-
Because I wanted to ask, so there's a desire, right?
Yeah.
So, is there anything that we can do without desire?
That's when we do nothing. Desire is, we need desire to do anything. But there can be a wholesome desire or unwholesome desire. You know, in order for the Buddha to talk, to get up, to eat, do you think he needs desire? So, but then is it a greed kind of desire? So there's a difference. Yeah, desire could be motivated by greed, or it could be motivated by wisdom. So when we are already 100% full and we want to eat some more, what kind of desire is that? I'll tell you an interesting story. Someone who came to my retreat. She's from China. At the time she was working in Singapore. And she was watching her mind when she was, she told this story that she likes Nangka. Yeah. So when she saw Nangka, one of the meals at lunch, there was Nangka, nicely peeled, and she liked Nangka. So when she saw it, she knew not to take too many pieces because there are still people behind her. So she restrained herself. Then when she had finished her meal, she recognized that she's full already, 100% full. But the mind is not full. Yeah. And it looked over the counter and saw, oh, still more Nangkas over there. But she knew that she was full. She knew that if she ate some more, it would be uncomfortable. But that's not a problem. So at that time, while still recognizing this, greed was still there, she told herself, one piece only, one only, So she got up, one only, and she went there, she took 3. And of course she finished all of them. And then of course she felt quite uncomfortable. And then she told herself, suffering or not? Suffering. Next time she want to do or not? One. That's the power of greed. Yeah. So that kind of desire is very obvious. Yeah, but we do need desire to get up, to drink, to eat, to speak. We all need that. But what kind of desire is that? Which kind of energy motivates it? what's the underlying, what's the energy of the desire? Is it a wisdom energy or is it a defilement energy? It's quite different. It's quite different. Let's say you run, yeah, running for leisure, or running away from an angry dog. Is it the same? Different. You're eating because you're greedy, you love that food, you want to eat a lot, which is when we tend to eat too much. It's a different energy from when we are not eating with greed. I had that experience. My first experience was when I went to my teacher's meditation center for the first time, and he knew that I had practiced I told him I practiced somewhere else where there's a lot of emphasis in physical awareness. And so he decided to encourage me to pay more attention to the mind. So one of the things that he asked me to do was to watch eagerness while eating. Well, in fact, before eating. When we are going to eat, especially in the meditation retreat, eating becomes the highlight of the day. Yeah. There are very few kinds of excitement left in a retreat. There are few left. Yeah. And my teacher even said, if you have greed over 10 things, and you go to a meditation retreat and you don't get to enjoy 7 things, does that mean your greed has dropped by 70%? No. All 100% of that gets squeezed here into these 3 things. So if you have gone to a meditation retreat and you notice, wow, greed for food has escalated, you understand why. Yeah. So it's a good practice to before you eat. In a meditation retreat, you might notice as the time comes to eat, when your food is in front of you, you feel like pouncing on the food. That's eagerness at work. So he said, check, watch eagerness before you eat. Let's say eagerness could be from 0 to 10. 0 means none, 10 means extreme eagerness. You can't wait anymore, you have to do something. So let's say yours is at 5. So as you watch eagerness at this level 5 power, it drops. And even if it drops to 1 or 2 points, don't eat yet. Let it drop to 0. Because if you start eating at 1 or 2 points, it will quickly go back up. The energy will go up again. So let it drop to 0. And when you let it drop to 0, then eat. And in between, you will find that it might still come up. But it won't come up much. It gets to 1 point, 2 points. As you are watching while eating, it drops back to 0. So that's what he asked me to do. And I said, I'll try. Wasn't very convinced. So I did that. I tried and I failed. And I tried and I failed. And I tried and I failed. It took quite a few days before I got it. It went like this. The times when I failed, it was like, okay, 5 points. I'm not very much into food myself. Yeah. So it dropped 4, and 3, and 3, and 3. Sometimes it dropped further. It goes to 2, and my mind goes, oh, it's going to end already. Then it goes 3, 4, 5. So it was difficult. It was like playing a game, It's like playing a game. It goes down and it goes up. But eventually I got it. It dropped to 2, 1, and 0. No eagerness to eat. Food still there. Eagerness not there. So, how to eat? It wasn't difficult. After a few seconds, a thought came up, well, you need to eat. You need to eat to sustain this body. And with that, the hand moved and eating began. And throughout that session of eating, I was still watching this mind that was really peaceful. When the greed went away, it was peaceful. It was very peaceful. It was a very peaceful meal that I had. Still eating, but without the eagerness, without the greed. I could still taste the food, but again, without those defilements. In between, as my teacher actually told me exactly as he told me, that it did come up sometimes 1-2 points, and it drops as I continued to watch the mind as I ate. Really, it happened as he said, and that was the first time that I had a peaceful meal, a really peaceful meal. Well, although in between there were moments that eagerness came up, but for most of it, it wasn't there. It's just completely motivated by this recognition that there is a need to eat. That's all. And I think that's how people who are fully enlightened, I think that's how they eat, of course, but they don't have those in-between, those moments where greed comes up. It's like completely peaceful. Imagine living your life that way. Everything that you do is peaceful. Everything. Because it's not motivated by defilements. Just imagine that. So desire could be wholesome desire, could be unwholesome desire. Even to meditate is some kind of desire. One of the 4 basis of success or accomplishment is desire. In Pali it's called iddhipada, sometimes translated as for basis of power, or sometimes for basis of psychic power. But basically it's 4 basis of power accomplishment, iddhipada, the Chatu iddhipada. So the first one is Chanda, and Chanda is best translated to English as desire. Because Chanda, just as desire, it can be used in a positive or negative way. So it's necessary even for the sake of practice. We can't do anything without desire. We can't move. We can't even breathe. It takes desire to breathe, but it's very subtle desire. Very, very subtle. There's this impulse or this volition from the mind that would push this breathing. It's very subtle, but it's there. So you can't do without desire. It's you need it for living. But what kind of desire are we having? It's a wholesome desire and unwholesome desire. You will know through its energy. One is a little bit stressful if it's just a little bit of desire, and the other one is peaceful. Does that answer your question?
We'll check.
A check. Okay.
So, can we have one last question for today? Any brothers and sisters like to ask any questions?
Any question over here? Do you have something? Over there? Oh, you're not putting up your hand, scratching your head. Okay, there are 2, one over here and one over there. Yeah. Well, we can take both, I think. Yeah.
I have a question regarding about things which is important. Sometimes at the time, at the moment, I think this is important, but after a certain time, I feel like this is not important anymore.
Okay.
So,
it's anicca, you see.
Yeah, it's so funny that I thought that was important, but after a while, it's not important. What is important? So it's like, what's the things that I should check? How should I say this? Like, it sounds like what's the meaning of life kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, what we think is important one moment, we need not think that's still important later on, of course. Yeah. Because what we think is important can be motivated by greed as well. not necessarily wisdom. So how can we have the wisdom to check? Well, notice that if you are sensitive enough, if you watch that mind that thinks about that thing, that important thing, how does that feel? Is it peaceful or stressful? Yeah. If it's something that really agitates you, which is different from something that motivates you, sometimes motivation can feel a little bit not very peaceful, but it's not unhappy. It's not an unhappy thing. Motivation may feel like there's this enthusiasm towards something which we can't stay like that for long. It can be a bit unsettling, but it could be something that we need to do because you're just initially getting a bit excited over it. Yeah. So if you're not sure, then let it settle for a while, let it cool down for a while, and think about it again. Is it really peaceful? Is it a stressful desire or not? Yeah, I think that's a simple way. There can be more complicated way of going about this. Yeah, but it's a simple way.
Thank you, Bhante.
There's also the what I've recommended yesterday as Dr. Stephen Covey's way of, you know Dr. Stephen Covey? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now you know, okay. So you forgot the author. He wrote another book called First Things First, which I've finished reading. I bought these 2 books when I was in university. It's more than 20 years ago. I read them recently. So in this book, First Things First, he recommended this thing of, it's drawn from the first book, this habit of to begin with the end in mind. So we have an end, agree? We all have an end. We are not going to live forever. We have an end. So imagine if you have lived to a relatively ripe old age, and one day you find yourself walking in front of your house, and then you notice people coming, people you know, your relatives came, your friends came, your colleagues or your old colleagues, your neighbors, and you're wondering, what's happening here? Why so many people are coming to my house? And as you go in, you greeted some of them, you said hi, and nobody greeted back. Everybody ignored you, as if you're transparent. And as you walk further in, you see a coffin. What's the coffin doing there? And so you wanted to know, now who died? As you looked into the coffin, as these days you have that glass thing that you can look through, and you see yourself in there. Now how could that happen? It took you some time before it dawned upon you, oh, I've died. And maybe you start to remember how you have died, and you've forgotten that. Yeah. And so what do you do there? Nothing to do, right? Hang around. So, and indeed, there are some people who could see these people who have passed away, and they say they do hang around. They are around. They're around to attend their own wake and funeral. And so, assume that this is a kind of modern kind of funeral, and where people give eulogies or pay tributes. So imagine if your life partner, your wife or husband, gives a eulogy, your children also, maybe your eldest children gives a eulogy, your neighbors, your friends, people you know, people that who have been close to you in one way or another. Assuming that you have lived a life that you feel has been meaningful, has been good, has been purposeful, life that you are happy about. Assuming that you have lived that life, what would you expect them to have said? What do you expect your husband or wife have said? What would you expect your friends, your children would say about you? So he encouraged the reader to write it down. And after you write it down, you compile it. I mean, that's the beginning. That's how you begin to draft your personal mission statement. And that might take you some time to revise. I've done this by myself. Took quite a few revisions. In fact, I've thrown away completely the old ones and rewritten new ones. And eventually I settled to one which I've not changed for quite some time. I've changed a little bit here and there, but not much. It's kind of settled. And this has been something that I use to decide when I have difficulty deciding. Should I do A or B? So I don't have to think too much. I just reflected on this thing that I think that's important for me and see which one does it fit better. Maybe neither A or B. Maybe neither. But with that as a guideline, it's easier for me to decide. So this is one way that you could do. One way that you could try out. So that you have this guideline, once that is set, then practically anything else in your life, you can just go by that. You don't have to think too much. And this is something that you won't regret. All right? Okay, so.
Okay, just now you mentioned for Itipada, the first point is Chanda. So what are the other three factors?
Let me see if I remember correctly. I don't think I can remember in order. There is Chanda, then there is a Vimamsa, which means investigation. Then there is, Chitta, which is mind. But actually, it's not quite right to just talk of these four things because it's a phrase, this long phrase that these four different things are part of. When it comes to Chitta, or even when it comes to the first one, Chanda, there is this collection of, actually the word there is samadhi, but I don't think it's rightly translated concentration here, because samadhi can just mean collection, as in even to collect woods, that's a collection. So there's a collection of Chanda, meaning you're putting it together. If you really want something to be, you want to be successful in something, you need to focus. Just as when somebody asks Robert Kwok, the wealthiest man in Malaysia, how he became the sugar king, he said, focus. So there is this, you could say focus of desire, focus of mind, focus of investigation. So because if we want to be successful in something, we need to think about it, how to do things well. Even if you're a hawker, you need to think about how can you do things more efficiently. And lastly, if somebody could help me, there's one more. Chanda, Vimamsa, Chitta, and I think it's Virya, right? Yeah, Virya. So Virya is the endeavor, the effort that you put in. Perhaps Virya, maybe, sometimes I translate Virya as vitality. We have limited resources, limited energy. So focusing of that energy into something. Like these are the four Iddhipadas.
Thank you.
I think the Buddha was a very before he became a Buddha, he was very, very focused. He didn't do a bit of this and do a bit of that. He was really, really focused, and that was why one reason why he was so successful. All right, so I think that's all. Let's. We have just 5 more minutes to 9:30. Let's just sit for these 5 minutes. Again, try to do anything, just be yourself. Just recognize, allow the body to relax. Allowing the mind to settle on its own. Allowing the body to relax on its own. Our job is just to recognize what's happening. What's happening for you right now? And whatever is happening, just see that as just part of nature. Whatever the mind is knowing, it's sensing, feeling, whatever the mind is doing, know that they are all just natural phenomena. Allowing them to be. To get involved. Allow the body to relax, allow the mind to relax. Okay, that's the end of our session. With this end of session, you don't have to throw away your practice. You throw away your mindfulness. Keep it. Don't leave it here. Keep it. Bring it home. Bring it everywhere.